back to the Rantin Review Pro-Wrestling. We got a lot of words from Jonathan Gresham and Tony Khan, who like to apparently to have words, even with each other. But before we get to that, I want to remind you guys that we got down in the description box a lot of free goodies for you. So if you guys want to get some free stocks, the market, now we're in an official recession, kind of, not really. Well, we are, but the government, of course, doesn't want you to think that, but we were. But take advantage of the dip right now. Get yourself some free stocks using the links down below. You can get a couple of free stocks from Webull that could be worth anywhere up to $1,800 to, I think, up to $2,000 a piece, depending on your luck. You can also get free stocks from Webull. You can also get free crypto from Coinbase if you like, just using those links down in the description box below. Take a look at that, see if you can get any free stuff out of it. I appreciate it very much. But let's talk about the news this week in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. So Gresham, who's been a lot in the news, earlier in the week it was reported that over last weekend, the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, that beforehand he got into this whole big blow up with Tony Khan and was cursing him out that everybody in the arena could hear it. So that was not really good. He very quickly lost the Ring of Honor championship to Claudio at the Ring of Honor show and pretty much asked for his release from AEW / Ring of Honor. No word as of yet if Tony Khan has, as of this recording, that Tony Khan has granted that release, but Gresham pretty adamant and vocal about not wanting to be there because of the communication, what he thinks the way wrestling should be. He would go on talking about the way he thinks wrestling should be in another interview, but this isn't the first time this has happened with Tony Khan. Obviously, Joey Janela had issues. Big Swole had issues with Tony Khan. There's a lot of talk about communication. And Tony Khan is spinning a lot. He's got a lot on his plate. He's doing a lot of stuff. And maybe he should not try to do all this on his own. That might be a good idea. Maybe it would have been good to still have Cody and Brandy around for this kind of stuff. But yeah, right. So far, it does not look like Jonathan Gresham is going to be over to Khan's house for any holiday celebrations coming up anytime soon, and probably vice versa. Jonathan Gresham also was talking about the state of pro wrestling and how he thinks that the WWE mainly screwed up stuff with the whole getting rid of the white hats and black hats thing, so the good guys versus bad guys narrative. Gresham is quoted as saying, because now wrestling has evolved so much, I think it was something WWE said where it's like people aren't always good and aren't always bad. That's effed up everything. Once that happened, things changed. That form of storytelling can be done with a couple of people, but there need to be people that are bad and good. If you watch any successful Disney movie, there's always a villain and a good guy. Now, most wrestling is face versus face, and everything is pop, pop, pop. Now, I see what Gresham is trying to get at here, and I don't agree with it. And this is from me as a writer, as an author. And I know when I'm writing the Con of Cold series or whatever series I'm writing, it's very hard to kind of, in this day and age, to keep an audience with a straight up 100% good guy and a 100% bad guy. In this day and age, and even though he references Disney villains, if you notice those successful Disney movies, yes, there are villains and there are good guys, but this is still the same way in wrestling, and it depends on the match. In one match, Adam Cole is clearly a bad guy, and this other guy is clearly a good guy. But Adam Cole is a good wrestler, and we're here to appreciate the craft of wrestling. That's what professional wrestling is now. That's what makes wrestling a little bit different from those other genres, and makes it pro wrestling, is that the appreciation from the audience is in the performance. So I understand what Gresham is trying. It's kind of like theater. Even in the Disney world, if you look at Marvel, you look at Star Wars and all those other ones, when they do Mary Sue, good guy, good girl characters who have no flaws as the heroes, people tend not to like that. And if you have a villain, you know, most of the Marvel villains, to complain about them is that they're one-dimensional and nobody cares about them because they're just, ha ha ha, I am evil. But characters like Killmonger, who was a bad guy, but you could understand where he was coming from. Same thing with Loki, and same thing with Thanos, where you understood where they were coming from, and maybe they're not told, they do love other people, they do care about things, they're not just, I'm bad and evil. That day is done in the narrative space. You can't have that anymore. You can only have that on rare occasions. So I kind of will flip it from what he says. I do agree that there should be a little bit more decisive heel work in the wrestling world, but I think only few people can do that anymore. And even saying that, the few people that can do that, one of them being MJF, he still couldn't do it. He was still popular because of the fact that he was such a good heel. Now, I think right now the closest person we got to that is what Christian's doing in the Jungle Boy feud. That is a pure babyface heel feud. But even this past week on Dynamite, which I'll get to in a second, Jungle Boy wasn't exactly a white meat babyface in that promo he cut. So I don't necessarily agree with what Gresham was saying, but I understand where he's coming from. On the other side of this, the guy he was yelling at last week, Tony Khan, has expressed his amusement at the rumors and the internet writers, all the rumors and the people going, oh, now that Triple H is in control of WWE, that means all the guys that went over to AEW are going to go right back to WWE. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Tony Khan rightfully points out, as he was talking about this, that a lot of those guys are under 3, 4, 5-year contracts. Like Adam Cole will be in AEW for another 4.5 years. Same thing with Malachi Black. Same thing with a lot of these guys. They're going to be around for a long, long time. This is part of the shoot work contention that MJF had, is that a lot of these guys had big contracts for multiple years and he didn't. So I'm not so sure that a change in direction in creative in WWE, again, remember, WWE is still a publicly traded company and they still need to present their company and their wrestling in a way that appeals to a mass audience. So Bryan Danielson might not be able to do, even with the change over there, even though it's a Triple H, he still might not be able to do this kind of things he wants to do in AEW over there. Adam Cole, of course, Adam Cole might go back at some point in time. Malachi Black, a lot of the NXT guys that came over from Triple H's NXT to AEW, I'm sure some of them, when their contracts are up, depending on what the situation is in 5 years in AEW and WWE, might go back. But who knows? As I said the other day, if WWE is going to be up for sale for a couple $1 billion, wouldn't it be funny if the Khans bought WWE? So, and again, and on the opposite side of that, in 5 years, who knows what AEW, if they're still going to be around. I mean, the ratings haven't been great, and the attendance on the Dynamites haven't been great, but they are expanding now into Canada. So, I think them getting out of the Northeast and getting out of Chicago is going to be very helpful for their Dynamite and Rampage shows to not have these half-empty arenas anymore, because they've kind of saturated their stay in those areas. Even the Arthur Ashe show is not selling out immediately. So AEW's got they got some work to do on that front. But I did find it amusing that Tony Khan found it amusing that all of these wrestling writers thought that everybody that came over from NXT is now in the next year going to go back to WWE or at all. I don't see it happening. And in fact, I think with a strong AEW and a strong WWE, both having good content, but being slightly different enough to be distinguished from each other, I think the talent going back and forth is going to be a cool thing over the next 5 years. Speaking of that and getting better, AEW Dynamite, I just got to make a note on this one, man. The last couple of weeks of Dynamite have been kind of ho-hum. This week's episode of Dynamite, I don't know, somebody must have smacked somebody around. It's like, you remember when you were good? You remember when you were good a couple months ago? My goodness, this was probably one of the best episodes of Dynamite the entire year. Between Hook showing up and beating Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship, which then led to Starks cutting a surely babyface promo, which was absolutely fantastic. And then Will Hobbs turning on, it was like bam, bam, bam. All these things happened in like one moment. Rush's match with Jon Moxley was just crazy. We got into finally getting the rematch with Moxley and Jericho. The Quake at the late name, no, but that could be a good match in the future in 2 weeks on AEW Dynamite. We also, like I mentioned, the Jungle Boy promo that he cut on Christian Cage was absolutely fantastic. Like, Jungle Boy, one of the criticisms and one of the things I personally was worried about with him being one of the pillars of AEW, if that's even a thing anymore, but Jungle Boy never cut a really good promo. He wasn't like a stick guy. Other people would talk for him. He would just have like really generic one-liners or whatever. But then he came out here and cut a promo, and oh my God, where did that come from? Jungle Boy and Ricky Starks, man, that is what I wanted to see. And I think that's what a lot of people have wanted to see, is some of the AEW originals who are not people from NXT or WWE being featured and getting time to shine again. And we're getting that now with Ricky Starks and Jungle Boy and getting a bit of a push for them, which now it's like, this is new and fresh. Because as much as I like Adam Cole and Malachi Black and Miro and so on and so forth that I've seen before in WWE and NXT, and even some of the guys that were mainstays like Brody King and Ring of Honor, some of these guys that I hadn't seen a lot more, like Will Hobbs, like Danhausen, like Jungle Boy, like Ricky Starks, I want to kind of see them rise up as stars. And then Ricky Starks and Jungle Boy definitely are two guys that can rise up as stars. And throwing Daniel Garcia in there a little bit too, because of what happened at the end of Dynamite. And, you know, I guess we're seeing the new pillars of AEW rise up. And I got to say, I might put Ricky Starks in as one of those pillars of AEW. The promo he had this week and the promo he had last week, I think we're getting a new pillar. But the most shocking thing was the main event where Bryan Danielson worked a concussion injury. A lot of people feel iffy about that. I feel iffy about it because that's the thing that people worried about with him going to AEW, that they're not going to take care of him and they're going to let him do things that is going to get himself hurt that WWE wouldn't let him do. And he played up on that in this match and worked the concussion angle as an injury angle, which was a bit disturbing to watch. But then again, it is one of those moments where I always say pro wrestling is at its best when the line between fiction and reality is blurred. So part of me liked it, but part of me was a little bit, it's a little cringy. But it worked out and well in the end. Danielson and Daniel Garcia had one of the best matches. This is a match of the year contender for me, absolutely. And the finish, Garcia, after Danielson was selling this injury throughout the entire match and wobbling around, and can he do it? Not submitting, passing out to the sharpshooter, and Garcia cranking back on that, getting the biggest win, clearly, of Daniel Garcia's career, beating Bryan Danielson clean in the middle of the ring through a referee stoppage. I mean, again, like I'm talking about, this is the stuff that I think why this show was a lot better this week is because this is the kind of thing that we wanted to see in AEW. We wanted to see these people that we didn't know, as well as the guys from WWE, and have them rise up as stars, and then intermingle them with the guys, the Miros and the Malachi Blacks and the Adam Coles and the Bobby Fishers and the Kyle O'Reillys and guys like that. So we got Brody King coming up in a coffin match against Darby Allin. The AEW is starting to get rolling again. They usually are like this. I noticed this tendency that after pay-per-views, they kind of slow down for a little bit. And then as we get like about around a month to the next pay-per-view, they start kicking things up in the full gear, pun intended, and go all out with it. All right, I'll stop. But I want to know what you guys thought about this week's episode of Dynamite. What do you think about Jonathan Gresham's comments about good guys and bad guys in wrestling? And what do you think about Tony Khan and his thoughts about all the YouTubers and dirt sheet analysts saying that people are going to immediately go back to WWE now that Triple H is in charge of the company? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary. I will be continuing my review of the G1 Climax. If you are interested in that from New Japan Pro Wrestling, definitely hit the subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time here on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.